So stay tuned. If you're a Ford lover, if you like the Blue Oval, or anything to do with Ford Motor Company, you're gonna really enjoy this video. And if you're just a car guy, you'll still like it too. So welcome to another episode of Junkyards and Barn Finds with Sean, and I'm Sean. Hey, good morning, folks. We are on a street called McGregor Boulevard, and this is in Fort Myers. The reason we're on McGregor Boulevard is we're going to a really cool place that I've always taken for granted has been in Fort Myers, and I've been there a couple times, but I always take for granted it's there. I wanted to share with you guys, especially you guys who like Ford and the Blue Oval vehicles. And if you watch while we're driving down here, and something special about this road is Thomas Edison lived here for a long time, and all these palm trees on McGregor were supposedly, by legend, were planted by Thomas Edison. Now, I don't think he actually did it by himself, but he did probably have one of his workers do it, because he lives on this road, which is McGregor, and this is right on the water. The Caloosahatchee River is right down the street here, and so this is one of the original roads from the 1920s. And I say that because this is an important reason as to why we're going down here, and you'll find out shortly what that reason is. All right, guys, so where are we? We're around a place that has a whole bunch of funky trees, pretty weird looking, gift shops, palm trees, and a whole lot of other stuff going on. So where are we at? We are at the winter home for two different people in history. One, Thomas Edison, is what's basically allowing us to make videos. Thomas Edison is had his summer home down here in Fort Myers, and Thomas Edison was the one that invented moving pictures, if you remember. He also invented the light bulb and everything else. So the reason you can actually see me talking to you, or that you could see YouTube at all, is because of Thomas Edison. But that's not why we're here. We're here because his neighbor, a guy you guys might have heard of, Henry Ford. Yep, that Henry Ford. So Henry Ford has a workshop and a summer residence across the street, and this is the Henry Ford Museum right here. So this is the Henry Ford Museum. We're gonna go and visit his museum here. Tons of stuff. He lived here in the 20s. He's got a workshop here, everything else. So there's one up in Michigan. This was his his winter residence, not summer. You didn't want to be here in summer back in the 1920s before mosquito control and air conditioning. So for those of you who want to see, there's some really cool cars. There's some really cool other stuff in here, blueprints, workshops, everything else. We're going to go into the museum part, and then we're going to go over here and see his workshop and his house. So come along. I've been here 2 or 3 times, but mostly just to park my Mustang for Ford shows back in the day, because they always have a cool Ford Mustang show here that brings a lot of people. And you're going to see we're right next to all the water. These are all waterfront houses. This is big homes here, and so we're going to take a look. If you want to come along, I'm inviting you. We'll go and see what's here. So I haven't been here in probably a decade, so I don't remember, but I do know there's some really cool stuff in the museum. So let's go take a look and check it out. All right, for all you Blue Oval fans, we are in the museum right now. We tried to get somebody here to talk to us, but you know, the people that are volunteers, they're always afraid to talk. So we're just gonna have to do it ourselves. Anyway, so when you first come in, this is what you see. So they've got a couple really cool cars here. They've got, let's see, Cadillac Connection, Henry Ford. He worked at Cadillac, it says here. And so they have a 1908 Cadillac right here. Really, really nice. You guys know I don't know too much about these, the first generation vehicles. Maybe you do, but these are not replicas. Nothing here is a replica. These are all actual cars, and these are cars that are from the collection, the Henry Ford collection. Alphabet cars. Let's see, Ford began production of the Model A in 1903 and continued through other alphabetical models, producing the Model T 5 years later. Now that's kind of funny to me, because honestly, I'll be 100 honest, I thought the Model T was the first one. I didn't know the Model A was the first one, but then that makes sense. So let's see, Model Ts. It says here that he was able, using the assembly line, he went from 25 cars a day to 1,000 cars a day in 1913. So it took 12 hours to make the first Ford cars, and then by 1913 it's saying it only took 13 to 93 minutes. So that's pretty crazy. And so let's see, after 2 unsuccessful automobile companies, Henry Ford became the principal. I did not know that he had 2 unsuccessful companies. Let's see what we got here. We have a Ford Flathead V8 engine from 1937. Wow, look at that. And of course, the reason they call it a flathead is because it's got a flat head. So here's the old type generator, original carb. This is one of those oil-based air cleaners that I've always, every time I open up a new car, and I go, they have oil-based ones, and they do. But a lot of times now, they, on the newer, you guys who have those cars, you know that you just take all the insides out and make it a regular air cleaner. But this is a 1937 Ford Flathead V8. Let's see, some Model T facts. 40 miles an hour, 13 to 21 miles a gallon. So a Model T gets better than my Nissan. Crazy. 1,200 pounds. So it's about less than about a quarter of the weight of a car today. And originally available in multiple colors, but only in black from 1913 to 1926. So the old joke when people say that Henry Ford said you can get the Model T in any color as long as it was black was not originally. It wasn't original that way. It started in, it says 1913 to 1926. So prior to that, you could actually get colors, and that's probably because that's when they started the assembly line. Prior to that, the cars were hand built. So this is a carriage, and you can kind of see why they call these carriages, because they have a carriage-like body. If you would look at carriages from the 1800s, they would have a similar carriage design for the cab, and then there would be horses pulled, and there would normally be a seat here, and the seat here would be connected to a team of horses, and that's why they're called carriages at the time. And of course, the first garages are also known as carriage houses, because that's what people would do. They would get the horses out, the carriages out, and they would put their cars in them. So here's a 1937 Ford 5-window coupe, 3-speed manual, Dearborn blue color. This has 85 horsepower, which is probably why they called it an 85 standard series, because it had a V8. Now this car cost about $850 new. And this is an all original car. Really large trunk. Now this did not have a back seat, so a 5-window coupe, even though honestly there's more room back there than a lot of your modern cars, they did not put the a seat back there. So they actually have, if you look back there, there's an extension of the trunk that goes in there, and then there's just some space with the 2 seats up front.
Any questions, the gentleman right there will answer for you.
And this is one of the 1914 Model Ts right here. So this was the year after they started the assembly line. So this was not hand built per se, this was an assembly line car, and it's black because this was after 1913 when you could only get black. Prior to 1913 you could get a couple colors, but once they started the assembly line it became black. And it's got some modern lighting in it, but you can also see where there was oil. If you look at the bottom right in there, that's where oil would have been kept, and those are oil lamps. So they could have put candles through there, or an oil wick rather, not candles but a wick, and you put oil there and that would have been an oil lamp. And of course you have your crank that is attached to the crankshaft, which starts the rotation, which would get a spark and allow your sparkulators to start kicking the engine over. If you notice, there's still wooden tires, or wooden wheels, not wooden tires, wooden wheels. But these wheels on the Cadillac are all pinstriped now. Whether this is the original paint job, I have no idea. And then here we've got a 1916 Model T. This one was $482.75 for a brand new car, which today would basically buy you the headlamps for your truck. Again, all black. This is after 1913, so they're all black. You don't see pinstripe or anything else. They didn't really do that. I mean, obviously there are people that did. And then of course, if you look, the seating and stuff in these are leather. You've got a canvas top. And if you remember, we went to the local Ford dealer, Sam Galloway Ford, which is one of the oldest dealers in the country, and he has a couple of these here. And you can see they didn't have plastic back then. Plastic hadn't really been put into use as far as automobiles. So you wouldn't have clear plastic windows like you do on today's modern convertibles. So what they would do is they would have canvas that came down. And this has a plastic rear window. You didn't really see that, but for this top it's got one. A lot of times what they'll do is they would have a piece of glass in there. But the interior, just imagine how the weather of rain and weather would constantly beat down on these cars. So if they weren't kept up, the interior seating would rot very, very quickly. And this also has a flathead. And again, here you have oil lamps. So there would be oil would be in here, and there would be a wick, and so that could light up these, while the electric lamps up the front were not the brightest. That's why you would have oil. The oil will actually be a brighter lamp than the headlights usually. All right, so we've got a couple other things going on here. We have different dynos. We've got AC/DC current. This is some of the stuff that has to do with Thomas Edison, because this is the Edison and Ford Museum. So you're going to see some Thomas Edison things in here as well. Okay, so in 1914, Henry Ford and Thomas Edison and a guy named John Burroughs, they started exploring the Florida Everglades. And so this was one of the original off-road vehicles. And here's a little bit about when they went out there. Here's some of the cars here. I mean, could you imagine? I put it this way, I don't like going out in my four-wheel drive to the Everglades, and look what they're driving out through the Everglades. And they were camping out there. So it's just crazy how they took these cars out in the day. And you have all this. So there wasn't any paved roads that they're talking about here. And they just had all these giants. I mean, could you imagine Elon Musk, taking Musk and Bezos, who are two of the biggest people in the world right now, and going out with an NBC crew and going camping in the Everglades, because it's basically what it was. So now this truck here, and here's a picture of it. So this was the very first specifically outfitted vehicle to accommodate more lavish items. So this vehicle was the food vehicle and held the camping supplies. So this is the very first Ford recreational vehicle. This is the very first Ford RV. It's a 1918 Ford Model T Roadster chuck wagon. So this made its first appearance in the Adriatic Mountains. I don't know, I guess that's how you say it, in the Northeast. But Henry Ford designed this truck, and he altered it to include the aluminum covered pine box created to transport camping supplies such as linens, utensils, and other dining gear. It has an inline 4-cylinder, 24 horsepower engine, and could go 45 miles an hour, but most of the time it ran between 25 and 30. It says its miles per gallon is 13 to 21, which is way better than my 4x4 pickup truck that I have right now. So you can see it's got a water faucet on here. It's got water in there. It's got drawers and everything to hold. I doubt that they had fresh eggs. I can't see the suspension on this.
May I have your attention, please? At 10:30, guided tour is now meeting on the museum porch. If you signed up for the 10:30 guided tour, please meet on the museum porch at this time.
I can't imagine that eggs with the suspension this has would last long, but you can see the drawers, and you can see inside. And this was actually Thomas Edison's family's picnic basket. Again, there's no plastic for the sides. So in bad weather, mosquitoes, whatever, they're just coming in. Here's the engine. Notice the sparkulator cables. You know, it's only a 4-cylinder. Look at the belt. It's almost a cloth belt. It's funny how the horn seems to be one of the most prominent parts of the engine compartment. Original tires on this are 30-inch wooden wheels, and these 21-inch with rubber tires were put on in 1926. It's a 1918 truck. So it's got 3 large drawers made out of Model T floorboards. It has a slide-out table for food prep. To make room for the table drawers, the battery, originally located behind the back seat on the driver's side, was moved specifically designed battery box on the running board. So another unique feature is the water faucet located along the vehicle's side. Ford converted 2 Model T gas tanks into storage containers to hold the fresh water. So you'll see a battery box. So this battery box was moved because normally it would be back here. And then there's 2 fuel tanks that were converted by Henry Ford to be water tanks. And the cabinet back here was made from Model T floorboards. So that's what all this cabinetry was made for. And here's the spigot they talk about right here, the water faucet spigot. I'm from Pennsylvania. Does anybody else call it a spigot? I think we call it a spigot because it just comes out when I say it. It's a water spigot, water faucet, same thing. So water faucet's right there. And here is a little gas-powered little gas. There's the propane. It's a little gas-powered grill right there. Now, here are some cool things. You have 1980 camping trip. Here's the crew. Here's this guy named Harold Sato. These are his hat, driving goggles, and gloves. That's a neat thing. This is, so when we see like these movies and stuff, people actually wore driving goggles, gloves, and even when I was a kid in the 80s and the 70s, people would still have driving gloves, at least up north for a while. People would put them on, especially in the 50s, but we don't do that anymore, obviously. So this is called a xylophone vehicle, and the back here has an instrument called a xylophone, and I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it appears to work kind of like an organ, because if we look up here, kind of looks like a church organ, and I'm wondering, it's probably got steam in it because there's a pressurization thing here. So I am wondering, and you guys can put, if you know what this is, put your comments in, put the comments down the bottom, let me know. But I am not a musician, nor have I worked with steam. So this was made by Tangley Minor Manufacturing. At first, I'll be honest with you, when we walked into this display, I thought it was a fire engine because it kind of has that fire engine look to it. But let's see, it's called a Calliope 1914. Contains an, oh, it's an air-powered organ called a Calliope. Calipes. Anyway, it says they were invented in 1855 by a guy named Joshua Stoddard up in Massachusetts, and it's a steam-powered Calliope and mounted on riverboats. They could be heard 12 miles away, and this one, let's see, is installed on this vehicle. It says a low pressure air to play the metal pipes or whistles. The calophone is installed in this vehicle. Today, around 2,000 of these calopes exist. The organ is too loud to play indoors, but was played outside. So this is a Model T base. So it's a Model T engine, Model T frame and running gear, but this carriage on the top is the musical instrument. And I've never seen one. Have you guys ever seen one of these before? I've never seen one of these before, but very cool. And all the steam or air or whatever comes out the top, and there's all these whistles and everything. Wooden tires, wooden floorboards. Now, one of the things that people don't realize is one of these is the choke, and one of these is the handles on the steering column. One is a choke, and one is the accelerator. One of these is the accelerator, and one of these is the choke. And there's your handbrake. I don't remember which one of these. One of these is your clutch, one is your brake, and one is something else. I've gone over this before with some other people. If you guys know what the other pedal is, let me know. Put in the comments. But as you also can see, there's all kinds of stuff. Here's some of the stuff for Edison. So Thomas Edison, by the way, like I said, they live next door. A lot of this stuff is together. Here's all the musical instruments. Without Thomas Edison, we would not be watching a video. So that's kind of important to you guys on YouTube, because if not, you'd just be staring at a box that has no pictures or sound in it while I sat here and talked to myself holding a stick. Ford also made airplanes, in case you didn't realize that. They also made bombers, jeeps, tanks, trucks, all kinds of stuff during World War II. Let's see. And we've got more stuff going on. Here's the whole Ford family. So we've got William, Mary, Henry, Clara, John, Margaret, James, William, and Robert. So he came from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 brothers and sisters. His wife, Edsel, and Eleanor, his son, and then Henry Ford II, Benson Ford, Josephine, and William Clay. And it looks like William Clay Ford Jr. is the latest to pass away in 2014. That's on the wall. And this is a model of Thomas Edison's lab. We're going to take a walk over there shortly. Let's go to the lab. All right. Edison Botanic Research Lab. So Thomas Edison did not just give us lighting for cars, did not give us our radio, did not give us video so we could watch videos of cars and movies of cars, but he also had a lot to do with rubber and the quest for rubber. He looked, and so we have a barn here, we've got the garage storehouse, we've got a slat house, we've got different things here that are where are the actual buildings where Thomas Edison, working because they were best friends, Ford and him were friends, lived next to each other here and everything else, that he worked together to help Ford create better tires, lighting for their cars, all the other stuff. So that's kind of why we're looking at a little bit of this, but we're gonna so we could go in here and I can take a quick look, and then we're gonna head over to Ford's house and garage across the street. So if we go in here, you've got, this is Thomas Edison's lab. So Thomas Edison wasn't a guy who stayed by himself. So you got a machine shop here. This is all the stuff from his lab. Machine shop, you got a chemical processing area. You've got the dark room in here. And also, by the way, this is also where Tesla, if we're talking cars, let's go back to Tesla, where Tesla got their name was that Tesla worked for Edison and then left and started his own stuff. So here's more of his lab and notes. And I guess we have to go out the way we came in. Walk around here. And so this was the Botanic Research Library there. And of course you have some of these fantastic trees that you see. These trees are all over here in South Florida. One of the problems with these trees is, and here's a close-up, rats and mice love, all kinds of rodents love to live in these trees, and that is one of the issues people have down here when they have a banyan tree on their property. So we're gonna head across the street here. If you look at this fence line here, so the fence line starts there, and this fence line goes all the way down. That whole white fence area, that is the Ford and Edison estates, and they are next door neighbors, so we're gonna go in and check those out. This is McGregor Boulevard. This is the boulevard we were driving on, and as I said, if you look at all the trees were supposedly planted by Thomas Edison. Probably had some kid out here planting them, you know. I mean, even if you and I were going to plant this many trees, we probably wouldn't do it. We'd probably just hire some kid in the neighborhood to do it. But he's responsible for it, according to legend. So we're just gonna wait and we're gonna walk across and we're gonna go to the houses. There's some fountains and stuff, but we're gonna walk down here in front of the houses and the garage. So this is the Edison home. And by the way, this is a pretty big tourist attraction. On any given day, year round, people are here. So it's a really, really nice spot to come and check out if you're in Fort Myers. So Orchid Lane and Friendship Walk, Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, and Thomas Edison. And because we're in Florida, a lot of the homes, especially back then before air conditioning, everything was shady. So you have a lot of big porches. If you can see, they're all right on the water. We'll take a quick look at that. I'm trying to put some culture into you guys. So this is about cars, but it's also a little bit about culture. So we are going to continue on. All right, guys, so this is the Ford home. This is the Henry Ford summer home right here. Over there, that's Thomas Edison's, and right here is the Ford's summer home. Now you might think, wow, this is not a large home, and it's not. It's not a large home for somebody of Henry Ford's historical and financial means, but you got to remember, back then, Fort Myers, I mean, we're 127 miles south of Tampa. So it's not like today where, you know, there's a Winn-Dixie up the street or a Publix or a Walmart and everything else. So everything really had to be built and brought here. And these are the actual homes. So there wasn't a lot of visitors. It's not like he's gonna have the house he had up in Michigan, the giant estates, because they literally had to cut this out of flooded wetlands and jungle, kind of, just to be able to get here. So that's the Caloosahatchee right there. That's a river. And the Gulf of Mexico is that way about 3 miles. So they needed the fresh water, and you didn't want to have a lot of land because, you know, you didn't have landscapers that came and kept these lawns neat. I mean, stuff here grows really, really fast. This was his garage right here. We'll go over to his garage. They came down here for a couple months. It was a very small town back then, a couple thousand people. So it wasn't like they were up in Detroit or anything else. So they didn't need a lot of land. You didn't spend a lot of time in these homes, and it doesn't get too cold out. So it's not like you're going to spend a lot of time in your house down here back in the 1920s. So this was his garage. By the way, we've had a ton of hurricanes here over the years. So the fact that this is all still standing, and it did get damaged really bad a couple times. Also, Bob Vila, back in the 1980s, did a special when he came and repainted this whole place for this old house. True story, I remember when it was happening. All right, so let's take a look at some of these. So we've got a 1921 Ford Model T chassis converted into a truck. So before 17, the Ford Motor Company did not produce a truck. So in order to have a truck, a person would have to buy a Model T chassis and then build one. So this is a Model T truck. So this would be period correct if you had a truck. Thomas Betty Builder, Long Branch, New Jersey. Anybody ever hear of a Thomas Betty Builder in Long Branch, New Jersey? But I don't know when he lived. He didn't put a date on this. But there's your truck bed. Now, if you notice, unlike most of your Model A's or Model T's that did not have any weather protection, that this car actually has built in, because you have a carpenter doing it. And notice all the windows are regular glass, flat glass windows, and they actually are appeared. If you look at them, they're lead windows, because if you were here, I don't know if you could see it through the camera, guys, but you can see how they're like lead because of just the waviness of them. They're very old hand-formed lead windows. But this is one of the few of that era vehicles that has an actual cockpit. Most of them would have the open sides, and so you'd be open to the weather, but the person here, Thomas Betty, decided he was going to close, and it's just a wood box. Let's see, State of New Jersey. There's your inspection sticker. Inspected 1955. First inspected 1955. 5/18 of 55 was that inspection sticker. So somebody was still using this as a vehicle on the road in 1955. Let's see. License plates. So this one, a 23 Model T touring vehicle, donated in 2015 to the museum. And they've put everything up on jack stands, which is nice because these are wooden wheels, and if they did not put them up on jack stands, then over time the stress on these wooden wheels of just sitting in one spot would probably warp the wheel. So they did put them up on jack stands. And again, unlike the pickup truck over there, so you have the pickup truck, that whoever was driving that was protected by the weather. Now, of course, that was still on the road in 1955, so when they put that on, who knows. But if you look here, this would be completely unprotected. So if you didn't have a carriage house or somewhere to put this vehicle, or a garage, open bay garage like this, then your interior would just get destroyed, especially down here in Florida. This interior would probably last. Leather down here is not going to last well that long out in the weather down here in South Florida with the rain and the humidity. So you definitely needed a garage down here. Notice how your the spark plug wires, they go from the engine and they don't go to a coil, they go to the firewall. Each individual one goes up to the firewall. So the coil is inside of the firewall. And I'm looking for the fuel tank on here because I would assume the fuel tank on this one, and you guys, if you know where it is, because typically on these, the fuel tank was the section in front of the firewall, but on this one it's not. So let me know. In fact, there we go. So there we go. So see on this one, see there's your fuel tank, which is right in front of the driver. And then you had the front of the vehicle. So this is a 29 Model A. This was a successor to the Model T. Okay, see, and that's where I was confused earlier. Because if you guys watch Vice Grip Garage, Derek just got a Model A, drove it 700 miles back to Tennessee. And I always thought the Model A was after the Model T, but then when we were just in the museum, it said the Model A was first. But I'm reading here, nice thing about museums, if you don't have the information, you can read it. And it says, this is the new Model A that was introduced in 1927. This is a 29 model, but the 27 Model A, the original Model A was the 1903 Model A. And then the Model T came, because I always knew the Model T was the first vehicle that was made on the assembly line, and that didn't happen until 1913. So the Model A, the first one, was 1903, so they were handmade, and you could get them in various colors up until the Model T just decided when they went to the assembly line, you could only get them in black. And then you're back here again with a new Model A. And that was in a different color than black. And you have a 1917 Ford Model TT truck. So this is his first 1-ton truck in 1917. And the term pickup truck originated from the Model TT because a customer purchased a truck chassis from their local Ford dealer. Then they had to wait to hear that they could go to the delivery depot to pick up their 1,000-pound crate, which had the frame, engine, transmission, and drivetrain. So there you go. And I'm not making it up, it's written right here. And we all know that if it's written on a piece of paper, then it must be true. But, so that's a 1-ton truck, and that has a whole wood body on it as well. And if we look at the frame underneath there, and of course, we all know what this is right here. We all know what that is. That's the Ayuga horn right there. Now, notice by 1929, they are no longer using the wooden spoke wheels. They're now using the metal spoke wheels. But we still have the trunk. So we still have a leather trunk if you look in the back there. And we come around here and take a quick look through the hole there. So if you look, it still has a leather trunk, which is where the word trunk comes from. I know I point this out a lot when we're doing older videos of older vehicles. And this also had, if you notice, this has the suicide doors. So this one opens that way, this opens this way, which they kept for many years, all the way up into the 1960s with the Lincoln Continental, which still had them. And why are they called suicide doors? Because you could open that door up, throw somebody out, and then said they killed themselves by committing suicide because their head would slam into the door. All right, so that's the garage. And if you guys, I think that's all the cars that we're going to be able to show on this. But if you guys want, we'll take a quick tour of Ford's house. So if you're still watching and you're still interested, we'll go up and take a quick look inside the house, and then we'll go over to Thomas Edison since we're already here. If you want to watch it, great, and if not, I appreciate from this point. I don't think there's any other cars, but who knows, there might be something in the house. We haven't been in there yet. If you like this kind of thing, remember, please subscribe, please like, put comments down. Do you like when we do these kind of museums? If we like, you know, I mean, I think Henry Ford's pretty much one of those guys. If you own a car channel, you better do the museum if you're nearby. So that's what we're doing. So put the comments down if you like it, subscribe if you like it, hit the bell if you like it, become a member, and you know, it's $2.99 a month to help support the channel. That's always awesome as well. But we're gonna go inside the house here. So this is Ford's summer, I keep saying summer, this is Ford's winter home. So we're gonna head in there. If you wanna watch it, great, and if you don't, then thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. But for those who wanna continue watching, even though it's not car stuff, we're gonna go to Henry Ford's house. So he has a model of a ship, but I don't see any models of cars yet. He called this the Mangoes Estate, and he built it in 1911. Here is the living room, his record player. Standing here, I'm standing here, and it's March, and today it's probably in the mid-80s, and I can tell you right now, the breeze coming from the water through the house makes it really comfortable with these covered porches, these doors that opened up, and we're in Florida, and it is actually very comfortable And remember, they did not have air conditioning back in the day. So here is a guest room. Let's see. Oh. I like the sign. It says historic plumbing do not use. I think I had the same sign in my first apartment when I was in college. All right. The kitchen butler pantry. So there's the pantry. Look at that refrigerator with the ice box. I don't even know if that's an ice box or if that's, what is that? I think, is that where you pour ice? I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a fan. I'm not sure. Anybody know what is the thing on top of that refrigerator or the design? I'm not sure. But this is the kitchen. The maid's bedroom. Maid's bedroom is bigger than my bedroom as a kid, and she had her own bathroom. Huh. Okay. So this is the dining room. Looks like somebody hit the bottle of wine pretty big. The cheese is still there. I'm not sure. That, I'll be honest with you, that does not look appetizing. That strawberry shortcake, somebody needs to dust it off. It needs to be dusted. But that said, look at the little high chair. All right, so that was the Henry Ford house. I'm gonna go over to the Thomas Edison, see if there's anything over there worthwhile. We have to walk that way anyway for the car. In the meantime, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you always hanging out, coming on these little trips and stuff with us. And I hope this was a nice break in your morning. So I'm over here, it's the Saturday before Easter. So this is going up tomorrow, which if you're watching it today, if you're watching it now, I filmed it yesterday and put it up so you guys would have a nice Easter breakfast thing to watch. Oh, they got music playing over here.
Era pescar.
So right there that we just saw with the sitting room and the upstairs and the big living room, that was the lodge. So it had some guest rooms upstairs. So if you were a guest here, you would go there and stay, and they had the big room and stuff. And then this is the Seminole Lodge main house. So this is like the family house. So this was where Edison would come, and this was completed in 1886, but it was rebuilt in 1929, and so that's how we're seeing it today, as if it was 1929. And there is an upstairs. I could show you some quick pictures here. So the boys' room and the bathroom and the family friends room and Madeline's room right there. So you can see it's a pretty big estate. I have no idea who's supposed to sit there, because I'm 6'2", and nobody was 6'2" back in the 20s, and this thing is like too high for me to sit in. So this is the Edison's den. This is their family den right here. Have a little bathroom over there. Here's his desk. Edison Gold Mountain Records. And then here's Thomas Edison's bedroom. Oh, the stories that could be told in Thomas Edison's bedroom. The very, very first bedroom video. I'm just kidding. Notice the twin beds. Guess maybe that's where all the TV got 'em from. But that's very strange that everybody always had twin beds, even when you were married back then. But very nice. And then you cannot go up, but they have the upstairs. And you notice there's porches. Everything upstairs also has open porches. So, and this was, let's see, this is from 1909. They actually installed a fire hose system for the house in 1909. One of the very first private homes to have a fire control system, which is pretty cool. All right. And as we said, he was a botanist, or he had botanists that work for him. So all the different plants and trees and things that are here, they all have their signs as well that say what they are. That's an old pier that used to go out, breakwater in a pier. No longer there. You can't go out on it anymore. And this is a fountain that I don't think this has been here since he's been here. But anyway, so that was our tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked all the old cars. Thanks for staying for the little bit of extra on here. So that was an extra 10 minutes or so that we added to the video. If you stayed this long, I appreciate it. Remember to subscribe, ring the bell if you want to see things that we put up. And we will talk to you soon. Have a great holiday. As I said, this is going up the Saturday before Easter in 2022. So I hope you can enjoy this for breakfast if you are having bad weather. If you're not having bad weather, turn this off, go outside, enjoy your family, and I will talk to you again. April, should they subscribe to this channel even if they don't like cars today for this one?
Probably just for this one.